around 2:45-ish a.m. I checked the time on my phone. It was something like that. And it's not necessarily that I'm having trouble sleeping. It's more of I have been up very, very late the last few nights. So I have become a little accustomed to being awake at this time. And I am not very particularly happy about that because eventually my schedule is going to go back to me having to go in like at 4 a.m., 6:30, 7, all those crazy shifts. But while I was just navigating through the internet, I decided, hey, let me exit and try to stream about something because I find that I don't get to stream as much as I used to anymore. And I know that it is a time in which I don't expect anybody to tune in. But at the same time, I told myself, why not? Because there used to be a time when I would do this around midnight or a little later. And occasionally I would get a random person and I would be so surprised by that. But now I'm thinking the good thing about trying this so long after, like many years later, is that I know that people's circumstances have changed. I know mine have changed. So I just wanted to see what happens. And I checked my clipboard for the video topics, ideas that I have to discuss. And I noticed one that read My Two Emotional Nights. Hey, Garuda. It's so good to see you because I get the feeling that if you can hang out for a while, I get the feeling that you might have some stuff to say. And you're definitely one of my favorite people around here. As I was saying, I hope you're doing okay. My two emotional nights. I want to say I wrote this topic into my clipboard. It had to be early or mid 2017. I sort of remember. And I remember that at the time, I was very, very different from who I am now when it comes to my emotional state. I don't want to say mental too much because mentally, I feel like the only thing that has changed about me mentally is that my patience and tolerance has strengthened some. But I undoubtedly feel like the same person. Now, emotionally, I have experienced the most growth because, man, I used to be one giant sad cookie. I mean, it's strange that when I used to be sadder those years ago, for some reason externally, I used to smile more. I think it was because the thought of someone confronting me terrified me, even though talking about my emotions is something I don't struggle with. Now that I am a happier person, I find it difficult to express some feelings sometimes, but it's not something incredibly dark or something unbearable. It's more of, I guess back then, I projected a happy image because I felt like it was my responsibility to present myself as such so that I don't, without intending to, become that person who brings down the mood. And that I actually have legitimate reasons to feel that way. I will never forget the year was 2010, and mom and I were going to hang out somewhere. with one of her friends, and I was invited. So I said, sure, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm all by myself, so I need social activity. So I accepted. And I guess my mom must have been stressed out with something, but like I was particularly down that day. I was just not happy, okay? Like I was definitely suffering internally and I was extremely sad. And of course, if you're going to go out and it's the weekend, and this is someone who works like 5 days a week, it's the weekend, you want to do something cool, something fun. The last thing you want is for someone who's like down to bring down your mood. There's people who are like that. There's people who go like, "Oh, I don't like it when you're a downer and things." But given that I was younger, I would expect, especially from my mother, that if I am projecting myself in a sad way, that you would ask me what is going on. I would think that I have some kind of priority. I don't expect it necessarily, but the reason I say that is because I grew into that person. This is me in 2021. In 2010, I did not think of it that way. I felt entitled to such a thing. But I thought, if I'm your family member, and not just any family member, but I am your daughter, I would think that if you see me feeling down in any kind of way, everything else goes to hell, and you give me my place, and you're like, my child, I am concerned about you. What is the matter? I can be 60 years old, and my mom can be, I don't know, 90. If she still has her mental functions like as I know her right now, which I cannot expect that, but let's just assume that it is the case. I would think that her maternal instinct doesn't die just because she's aging. If anything, it may become stronger because more time spent together, a longer life, more embracing of those feelings. I don't know. I can only speak for myself. The older I get, the stronger my feelings become, especially for those who are close to me. Like, I don't know if you guys have been married or in long-term serious relationships, but that shit just grows. Your bond with a person, it just grows as time passes. As long as it's a healthy relationship, because it's possible that you are involved with someone who's toxic, and therefore your resentment toward this person may actually grow. So I just want to throw that out there and clarify to be realistic. But instead of asking me what was happening to me, she said, if you're not going to have a more happy face, happy appearance, let me know so that I can go back home and drop you off and leave you there. And man, did that make me start crying. I mean, I wasn't like the kind of crying that like, well, oh my God, I'm being all dramatic. No, nothing like that. But like, I'm good at holding back my tears until like I just cannot. And that was one of those days in which I just couldn't. And I started crying, but in the end, I ended up joining them, and I guess her friend was good about knowing things about the place we were at. So he would like talk and explain things that he had learned in his time in college. And you guys know that I'm all about getting a good dose of education by word of mouth. Like, if you know your facts, you know your stuff, you know your history, I want to hear it. But man, I was one sad cookie, but at least this person helped me like engaged in a conversation. I know that that's not the topic that my mom is interested in, but for me, anything that serves as edification, just knowledge in any kind of way, whether impractical or practical, I'm all for it. But I remembered that that is the one memory that is painful from when I was just a tad bit younger, like 11 years ago, only because that was around the time that I was able to identify and accept that I had those issues going on, like those periods of sadness and being lonely and feeling like life is meaningless and not having a sense of direction, no goals, no friends, nothing. I said to myself, I feel like I am designated to be in this state of mind because I felt like a superhero. I felt like I had a lot of tolerance for this shit. I told myself, if this is happening to me, it's because only I am designed to handle this. And that mindset, I think, is what made me very tolerant of all the crises that come my way presently. And I hope that I clarify myself that further I dive into my thoughts as I carry on. But but that was one of those instances with relationships, whether it be familial or friendship wise or whatever, that defined me, because I said to myself, I am never going to make someone feel like they're ever a burden, especially for entertainment. Like, you're saying that you having a good time is more important than my well-being? Fuck your entertainment. My well-being comes first. But if you're not able to see that, then that says more about you. And I don't mean this to smear on my mom at all. Like, now that I'm older, I can see it differently. She had her shortcomings, which were she didn't even know how to identify and even know at the time that I was struggling with those things, because, she's like a person who's by herself. She has a lot of things in her mind, and it also doesn't help that those were the years when I was needing a certain amount of help. And now that I'm older and the roles are reversed and she needs my help more than I need her, it's like, whoa, wait a second, I'm not married to you. So why are you doing this to me? So I guess back then it must have felt like that. Like, wow, here's this creature just needing so much of my time, so much of my attention, and I am not good at doing that. So now that I'm actually going through that with her, which she needs help like every 5 minutes for stupid, simple, petty things, I think of it as, you know what? If this is what she was going through when she was treating me that way, then shit, it's easy to forgive her, because I am that person now. I cannot stand it when I'm bothered at all by anybody during my quiet times. And unfortunately, during my quiet times is usually when she's around, more available, and that's when she's more susceptible to want to bug me about it. I haven't told her anything about that. I'm not going to, but I'm pretty sure that with the way that I react, I make it clear that that type of stuff bothers me. And she's a pretty intelligent being, so I would expect that she understands and know that. But at the same time, it's bad for me to assume that, because I should be able to use my words and be like, look, your clinginess bothers me. I don't do that to you, so don't do that to me. So when people talk about their relationship problems, and one of the things that I have noticed a lot people mention is, does this person know that you're offending them? Does this person know that you're hurting their feelings? I am in utter shock that that never occurred to me before. I don't know why we think that nonverbal communication is 100% fail safe, 100% perceivable, decipherable, uh, like the most accurate form of communication, it can say a great deal about someone, but it cannot replace what you actually express with words. It's kind of like, you ever shop for something online and you have expectations of an item, and then when you receive it, it turns out that the dimensions that you imagined were not right. The color that you imagined was not right. The texture that you imagined was not right. Anything. That kind of shortcoming, that kind of deception, it is involuntary, but it exists. So when it comes to feelings, emotions, rifts like that with people, relationships, just how you bond with someone, I had no idea how important it was to use words, even when words seem unnecessary. And with this topic, my two emotional nights, I envisioned 2017 at the time that I believe I wrote this as a pending topic for the channel. This was going to look completely different. This was going to sound completely different because I vaguely remember it now since it's been a little while, but I know that I was wanting to speak about how some nights I just struggle. It's always been like that, like something about after the sun goes down, that's like when my saddest, darkest, anxious, you name it just comes out of me. And I wonder why that robs me of my peace, my sleep. Will I ever be able to get better? Will I ever be able to overcome that? And then I realized that maybe part of the reason why I was in that abyss, it was because I refused to listen to myself, understand myself, but above all, listen to others, but intently. I had a tendency of trying to take what someone was telling me and sort of twist it, bend it into my own reality. So, say if a person says that they're tired, but they still live a full and happy life, I'm always thinking, no, this person secretly doesn't enjoy that. Secretly, this person wishes that they had more time on their hands. They wish they didn't have to work as much. They wish they were enjoying a little bit more celebrity. Anything like that. I would always try to find a way to be like, no, you're saying that you're just tired, but the reality of it is that the reason you're tired is because you're overworking yourself, and secretly you may be starting to get like feeling extremely down about the way that your life is going because you don't have time to rest. You don't have time to take care of yourself. Little things like that. And I kept wondering, where does that come from? Why do I try to fill in the blanks on people that don't exist? But I am so convinced that there's more to it than what the person is telling me. So being able to deduce is good, but I was over deducing. I think I was like deducing happy, like trigger happy. Like, hey, I want to find things where there aren't any. And I think that that mindset just went uncontrolled for a little too long, unchecked for a little too long. And that's why these days I tell myself, you know what? People who are still stuck in like a dark place mentally or emotionally, I often feel that they simply have not been able to like talk about it, but explore it differently from what we see these days, which people are trying to say, oh, it's okay to not be okay, but explain what it means to feel that way. Because for some people, this lasts a long time. And I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's acceptable at all. Because for me, when it was lost in a long time, it affected me in my relationships. It affected my ability to make plans at work. Like, I wasn't performing poorly, quite the opposite. I was overperforming, but I feel like I had some kind of functional depression, which is, sure, I'm getting things done and I'm being a worker of excellence, just like I was a student of excellence. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't materialize into anything meaningful or constructive. And I think that's where the danger lies, because we think as long as I'm doing a good job, as long as I'm keeping my job, as long as I'm functioning at home, getting bills paid, and not having any issues, everything is fine. But then you feel internally that just something is off, something is not right. And I think that's where I think that's where the problem comes for a lot of people, when they don't realize that just because you're fulfilling other areas doesn't mean that you're heading in the right direction. And had I heard myself saying this years ago, I would have been like, you're crazy, you're insane. The most important thing is that whatever you're working on, you're excelling at. But then when I think about all the people who have such a long trajectory with their careers, but the sacrifices they had to make, and they, in retrospect, express that they would have done some things a whole lot differently, I'm thinking, who out there has a guide that is perfect, that is accurate? Like, we like to think of mathematics as being like this flawless system because it can be proven that it just works repeatedly. Like, what guidebook do we possess that's like, hey, if you're in this situation in life, this is what you do, and guaranteed you'll get results? There is a possibility that whatever it is that you're looking for or strive for, you're not going to get it. But just because you don't get it doesn't mean that you need to let your world crumble. And in my family, that is something that happened an awful lot, which, oh my God, it's so embarrassing to say, but there's one family member who would say something like, if I'm not able to make it into Y career, I'm not going to be responsible for what I do with like my life after that. And I'm thinking, wait, hold on. So you're saying that you feel like your life is meaningless because this door is closing on you. Like, what? It's okay to love something, but sometimes you need to sacrifice shit because there's something better waiting for you. Had I been listening to myself, what I'm saying now, like 7, 8, 9 years ago, I would have been like, girl, you're incredibly toxic. You should never talk someone out of their dream. You need to support them, yada, yada. But now, when I think about it, focusing on the person I have been, which is the person without goals, the person who really like doesn't identify with anything out there really to bring me long-term satisfaction. Like, say, to give you guys a random example, yes, I could be a streamer for 8 hours a day. Fuck no. I know that doesn't make me happy. And the other stuff I do on the side, I enjoy that much better than my actual job. But would that make me happy to be doing that 8 hours a day necessarily? Fuck no. It's okay to admit that. And the part of me that awakened, that's able to see things in that manner, that's the part of me that saved me from being that person who was down and sad for prolonged periods of time all them years ago. And it feels like such a long time ago, but it also feels like it's so recent, and it's scary because I feel like I'm like a product from another time. Sometimes I feel like I'm older than I really think I am, but other times I feel like I'm younger than I think I am. And then I finally accepted that I have a lot of resentment about my childhood and adolescence having been wasted pretty much. Um, and definitely especially my late teens and my early 20s, those were years that went absolutely wasted. Like, I have absolutely nothing to tell about those years that's meaningful or remarkable. It's been, I would go to school, then be at home, spend my summers at home, then go back to school. I graduated from school. I stayed at home for a little bit, and then I got my job and I went back home. And now I continue to go to work and go back home. I haven't gone anywhere, haven't explored anywhere. The most I have done has been leave my hometown, like some 100 miles away. But outside of that, it's like, oh, fantastic. It's still the same place, same dynamic, just with different faces, different this different setting. Like there's a little bit more I guess dynamic to the landscape where I'm at now than the last place I was at. And I was telling my boyfriend the other day that I have a lot of resentment about that, not against anybody, but just at life, about how the way that I used to look at life, my mindset, it kept me from at least if I couldn't have experiences that were like meaningful, such as, let's say that for some reason I would have enjoyed traveling. You guys know that I'm not a traveler. But let's say that for some reason that would have had the effect in me that it usually has on people, which is bring excitement and bring growth, and the experience is so enriching for the soul. Let's say I would have gotten that. I'm thinking at least if I got that, then okay. I feel like life has stuff in store for me to explore, and that's exciting. I got stuff to look forward to. But given that it didn't, given that those were not the opportunities I had, at least don't be so fucking salty and miserable about it. That is my biggest, greatest regret. That in my adolescence, for example, without kidding you guys, I would cry until like probably all of those months, I would spend them just fucking crying, just feeling bad about myself, feeling all kinds of things, just so negative. And I cannot tell you guys exactly where that came from, because now that I'm in a better position in life, I guess, compared to those years, now I know that it happened. There's evidence that it happened. I can go and read things that I wrote from back then. But for me to travel back into that body and that mind, it's almost impossible. It's like it's there, but I cannot awaken those memories. And not that I have any desire to relive that, but I am the kind of person who the things that affect me and impact me, whether positive or negative, I can summon that moment and relive it in my mind. But my teenage years, when I would just cry endlessly and feel, my emotions of anger, of hate, of depression, of just being completely like eaten away by loneliness or whatever was happening to me. I cannot summon that now, at least as I knew it back then, but I just wish that I would have looked at that time with a different emotional state. Like, sure, I was born into a broken home and also a home without a lot of resources, but let me not be miserable while I am at it. And I guess what rescued me was as I was getting older and I was able to do something about some of those circumstances, like, say, with work. came money, which meant a car, which meant transportation to go out and do things whenever I wanted to, wherever it may be. I don't know why in my teenage years I couldn't be more of a hopeful person. Like, hey, this is something that I must endure temporarily, just like financial struggles. I remember some 4 years ago, I mean, I was in a completely terrible, awful, absolutely horrible spot. But I said to myself, you know what? I am putting henceforth the effort. I am sure that this is not something that's going to last forever. And it may last a long time, but as long as I am alive, it doesn't matter. Like, it I'll push through. But for some reason, as a teen, that mindset just didn't come. And this is something that I don't recall anybody telling me those words. Like, hey, make sure that you stay alive because as long as you're alive, everything has a solution. So I'm thinking, sure, those experiences are necessary to shape my mind into who I am today. But I just wish that I could be like, hey, I owe the way I look at things to this situation, to that situation. But I just cannot do that. And things like that used to make my nights, quote unquote, too emotional. Like, as a older person, I was telling myself, okay, here it is, nighttime, when my thoughts just roam uncontrollably. My thoughts of hope, my thoughts of disappointment, my thoughts of frustration, everything. Nothing is keeping that animal caged up. But had I made this video like all those years ago when I first thought of this topic, it would have been different in the sense that I would have dwelt on that. Like, hey, I'm in a dark place, but I think that it will get better. But even if it doesn't, at least I will try to make wonders with the ride. And as basic and common sense and obvious as that is, I don't understand why I wasn't believing in that. There's that part of me that remained completely fearful that, hey, I think I am filling my mind with bullshit and this is not right. But at the same time, what can I do? And that's the part in me that's like, it makes a difference to tackle a subject the moment that it occurs to you. But if it's a subject that you don't have a lot of clarity on, it does wonders to wait some time, months, years, perhaps, like it happened to me, so that you realize that stuff gets better. If you ever feel like you're just stuck with something and like you have to give up an idea or something, just be like, hey, maybe right now is not the right time. We try to force ourselves to be in the mood for something when it's just not the right fucking time. And we need to like get better at telling ourselves that it's okay for the time to not be right, but it doesn't mean that something won't get done. And I think that part of what makes that difficult is that we live in a society that depends too much on precious schedules. Like, say, if you have to go into work, God forbid if you have a stomach pain, God forbid if you couldn't sleep the night before, you have to be responsive and honor that fucking schedule because otherwise it'll result in a chain of events within the company, which in the grand scheme of things, it's not important. But we have been trained to function in that manner. You have to follow a stupid schedule. This schedule, it doesn't matter how you're feeling physically, how you slept, how you feel, how your stomach is functioning, if you're sick, anything. It's you have to make this work no matter what. And And if you guys, those of you, you should know who you are, but those of you who occasionally in the comments tell me, oh, I like to hang out with you and listen to what you have to say because you're someone who actually has things to say and you're pretty imaginative, and I like your thoughts and your ability to see things in the way that you do. That comes from somewhere, right? And it's definitely the best explanation I can give is I try to not allow to take those things too seriously. I'm thinking there are days in which I will be a good mood to be at work. I will be not in a good mood to be at work. I will do the best I can with that, which is what everybody does. Everybody matured. That's what we all do. But for me, that wasn't the case. Okay. The way I used to fake that was that I would literally convince myself I have to go to this job and look happy. If I'm going to look happy, I have to feel happy. So I used to force that fake happiness into me. And then I started to believe that I was happy until, once again, nighttime arrived and I saw the reality of my life. And I was like, oh, no, faking my emotions is not good, because if I show that I am okay and I'm this happy person, then people may feel like I'm not approachable because I may present myself as someone who's not in their league. Say, if I am perceived as the very happy person and there's someone, let's say, depressed who needs help, and they wish to approach me, they may shy away from approaching me because they feel like they're not part of my league. And I'm thinking, hell no, you have no idea how much company I need, how much I need for someone to look at me as a potential mentor in the same manner that this person coming to me for help, I may recur to them for help. Maybe I want to say something to them, but you guys know that my personal social skills are not the best. Like, sure, I can do well here on the channel, but in person, unless there's something extremely compelling about you, I don't make that first move socially. And that is something that has improved a little bit, but I think that part of me is just, this is as good as it gets. And as soon as I accepted that, that's when I noticed that my life just became better. So for anybody out there who talks about their struggles with their emotions and they cite things like, well, I just don't like the how superficial things are and fake things, let that person express themselves, even if it's someone who's like in their 30s, in their 40s, and they're just discovering this. Just celebrate it with them, because as someone who was there once, like I was part of the whole protocol, and just I pretty much promoted that in a sense, like fakeness. Sure, I want you to be yourself, present yourself for who you are. But at the end of the day, this is what's expected of us. So put up the show for society. Now I feel so much intense and immense shame about that, because that goes completely against what I deep down believed in. But I had no way of admitting to myself that I was being hypocritical, not only to those around me, but to myself, because I want to encourage this person to be the best version of themselves they can be while not being compatible with the direction that society is taking us. But at the same time, hey, don't challenge what's been implemented, right? No, if nobody challenged things, like in the past, segregation would probably still be a thing. And all those crazy things that we can think about that we don't have to worry about from ages ago. So, nah, don't be afraid to challenge the system as it is, even if you're living a good life. Like, if you're someone who went to college and you landed a good job and you have a lot of money now, or you're about to retire, fucking challenge the institution that exists still, even if you made it, even if it benefited you. Because I go online and I see all these people who have like zero empathy for the people who legitimately are struggling. Let it be because their resources are limited and it's a generational thing. But these people fail to see that. How is your success really a success if you're not able to even be a good fucking neighbor to someone? If you're not able to mentor someone but not do so in I'm telling you this from my high horse type of deal. That is the stuff that I say sometimes here on the channel that makes me so sick about people these days. Like, chill out, okay? Not everyone is going to value the things that you value, and you have to be okay with that kind of dissent. Let's say that you are like upset at someone who's poor because they feel like they just cannot make it, the system is rigged, or whatever the arguments that people say about what may make somebody not be in a good position. Let's limit it to finances. You just don't know this person, and all you're doing is like vomiting things that you assume about them because you happen to be in a good situation in life, but you don't consider what is your age, what were your opportunities, who was with you, who was surrounding you, what were you offered, what were you able to pursue, who were you able to pursue it with? Where were you able to pursue it? You just assumed that the opportunities that were handed to you, the circumstances that you experienced, that's something that everybody encounters. And something else that I hate is when I see people saying, well, if I were in your situation, this is what I would do. We're like so quick to give people advice when we cannot relate to where they're coming from and how they got to the situation that they're at. So tell me, how are you as a successful person able to look down on people and not be able to like just have a very basic understanding of how to communicate with an individual who's like different from you? It's I cannot imagine a life in which, say, my life circumstances change and I become a very financially like stable person, and all of a sudden I just I belong to like this different social bracket, let's call it that. And all of a sudden I gotta like look down on the people who are struggling. The only time I see myself doing that is if I see people mentally crippling themselves. It's like, hey, I used to be there. I used to be the person who like self-deprecated, and this is why it's bad. You need to stop that because that's stealing your energy. That's going to rob your appetite. Your weight's going to fluctuate. You're going to age at a faster rate, so on and so forth. I can talk about that because I have been there. But when it comes to the circumstances of that life, the quality of life that someone is living, I don't like to opine in that manner unless I know the person 100% and I'm very close with this person and I'm like, hey, I understand what you're experiencing, but I feel like this is where you're dropping the ball at. Do you agree? If you don't agree, let's explore why. Because maybe this person can teach me something that I completely failed to see, in the same manner that I can teach this person something that they may not be seeing. I think that's the way that you support someone. You're not doing stuff for them, but you're there for them. I think that's the kind of support that works perfectly for me. And I find it the most effective because at the end of the day, it's still me having to put the work, put the effort, having to get up in the morning, doing things, making good decisions, such as something as basic as don't have fucking children, and also don't allow yourself to be surrounded by people who are just going to complicate your life. As much as I suffered from being lonely, and to this day I still only have like 3 people I can say I actively talk to, I prefer for my life to remain this way rather than, sure, I have a circle of 100 people, but these 100 people are really not contributing anything to my life. That is what I had to learn for many, many, many years. I used to curse my social situation. I'm like, wow, I'm by myself. Maybe it's because I'm a terrible person. Maybe it's because nobody loves me. I have nothing interesting to say, even though my report card says I'm an A quadruple plus student. And even though my job performance indicates that, hey, I'm top in my team or among the top 3 people, so on and so forth. But that shit was meaningless no matter what. And now I can reflect on why that was the case. And that's where my faith comes from. That's where my what can I say? Self-confidence comes from. And I'm just grateful that I'm able to process this now in such a better way, because I like I mentioned earlier, I was pretty resentful that I went my childhood, my adolescence, and my 20s without any friends, without any meaningful experiences, and feeling all kinds of depressed and lonely. And that's time that I will never get back. But at least, hey, what matters is that I made it and I'm still alive. I'm not sure for how much longer, but I certainly feel like I can value life now, finally. Whereas years ago, I just looked at it as, okay, well, I have to keep breathing, see another day, because if I don't, then someone's probably going to be in trouble or something. Like, it's difficult to put into words because I just felt like I was a body that was here, living, breathing, functioning like a body, but it sucks to be alive but be dead at the same time. It's like your body's alive, but your mind, your spirit, your soul, if you believe in those things, is just fucking dead. So, like, a body that's alive without a soul is just pointless. So, anyways, you guys, I'm going to sort of take a break and catch up with your comments. Hello, I am off tomorrow, so I will be up all night. Excellent. Correct me if I'm wrong, Garuda, but you're primarily like a nighttime person, right? Like my nighttime person. Because I feel like when I used to stream at nighttime back in the good old days on this channel, I feel like that's when I used to see you the most. I feel like that's when I met you. But then again, you have that trucker schedule, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. My memory's kind of fuzzy. Up all night slumming it. Is the electricity off or are you going pre-electricity era mood style? Honestly, I burn a candle every single night. Nah, there's power here. Perfectly fine. No issues whatsoever. I have always wanted to kind of like have a dimmer light setting and have like candles burning in the background while I stream, but I realistically don't have a way to set that up here. But yeah, I said to myself, "Hey, dim light, just point it to the candle since there's no way you guys would be able to see me if I were pointing the camera at myself. And if I turn on the light, it would be too bright. And after a certain time, I like to avoid brightness altogether. And this kind of like warm color, I guess, it it's soothing for me. It's peaceful. So, yeah, best way to put it there. Late night venting. Yes, I guess you could call this venting. It's definitely super, super, super. How can I say this? Early for me, late but early at the same time. So, Yep. Let's see. I beg you good morning. I beg you a better morning. When you cried first while adult time, what did you see? What was your trigger? You may choose not to share. Let's see. When I cried, okay, as an adult, if you want to talk to about talk to me about when I was 18, since that's what we consider an adult age. When I was 18, I feel like I may have cried on my birthday night, and it was probably because of the same stuff. Like, oh my God, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, I'm by myself, I'm bored, I have no friends, I have no plans for my future. I don't want to go to college. I want a job, but at the same time, I know that having a job won't fix everything. Just the best memory I have from crying back then, it had to be that, wow, I am 18 years old now, but I still haven't summoned anything, no interests, nothing to pursue. Again, like I said a moment ago, just having an alive body, but a dead mind, dead soul. And then from then on until the more recent times when I used to be genuinely like depressed like that, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago was finally when I started to like become who I am today. It's what I see is like, it's so hard to put into words. I've never talked about this before, but good question. What I see is just my surroundings. Say I'm in my room and I see it empty, feel it empty, I hear nothing. And even if I had like a pet with me, or what can I say? God, it's such a freaking good question because I'm trying to put into words something that is not materialized. So, how do you describe something that you see that is triggered under certain circumstances? I can only talk to you about that feeling. I really cannot tell you about that picture. But whatever the picture of being sad because you're like empty, whatever that picture may look like, that's what I see. I know that's not really answering the question, but I'm telling you, it's such a difficult freaking question because it's been so long. But it also didn't help that I would feel most comfortable and I had the freedom to cry when I was in the dark. So, like, I remember my pillow being all damp from my tears, you know? And of course, the congestion that accompanies crying, especially for me. You guys know that anything makes me like sound stuffy and whatnot. But I do remember though that when I was a teen, it was around Twilight. And I just remember thinking, I'll be really impressed if I make it to see my 20s or see my 30s and 40s. I started breaking down my visions into that. Like living to see another year, particularly another decade, it was like a huge achievement. And I'm not sure why. Why was my bar so like fucking low? But but I remember just thinking of myself as I will always look in the mirror and see this same person. I'm constantly like crying, and the only difference is that 10 years from now, my skin is going to look different. Like I may start having dark circles, I may start having wrinkles. My face may look a little bigger because, I'm still growing. And And you ever look at an older person, especially an older guy, and how they just look like they're bigger, like their skulls are just bigger, or maybe it's your body changes as time passes. Some people gain weight, some people lose weight, some people have bigger heads. Like, whoa. My grandfather, I don't feel like he had like like a huge head per se, but there's some people who like it's like you guys have like five footballs on your head. It's like massive. But some people are kind of like on the more petite side. But I promise you, I will give some thought to your question about what it is that I see or used to see when I cried like that. Perhaps revisiting my journal from those years may help me, but I'm telling you, I cannot think about it. Had this question been asked maybe some 7 years ago, I think I would have had the perfect answer. But right now, it's like my mind is just blank. And I think it's because I have healed from it. It's like you trying to ask me, hey, can you act out how you were crippled by this one disease one time back in 2014? And I'm like, sure. Wait, how do you act out not being able to go up the stairs, not being able to unscrew caps and stuff? So I have to think about that. That's interesting. It's not very often that I cannot answer a question, but that's good. I need to exercise this brain. Um, what was my trigger was definitely being by myself. And being by myself in the sense of, sure, I had people I could text, I had people I could talk to, but it was all disconnected. Maybe that's why I grew into developing my antisocial behavior, which is because I did not develop social skills in person, but I was so good at writing emails, texting, and things like that. Maybe that's why I prefer to have the channel. It's like, sure, I can communicate with you guys. And if we were working together, I am probably going to be the most eloquent person you will encounter. But then behind the scenes, it's like, okay, fuck, I have to take control of this discussion. And that's usually how it is with my boyfriend. We'll be driving somewhere, and all of a sudden I go, so, tell me a story about a time when your father taught you something. Because you guys know that my father was not in the picture. He doesn't give a shit about me. I have nothing that I can credit him with. I learned nothing from him. He has never done anything for me except, I guess, barely fulfill his responsibility imposed unto him by the court all them years ago when I was born. But I like to ask people who had their fathers present because I want to know what I missed out. And it turns out that that had a lot of the pieces to my puzzle of, hey, what the fuck is wrong with me? And why am I so paralyzed by the things that happened in the past? So, in a sense, the picture of when I used to cry as an adult, some of it definitely involved the absence of a father. Because I remember telling myself, look, my mom has her shortcomings, as I expressed earlier. But at the same time, I have to understand that she's by herself. So, what would my life have been like had I had a responsible father figure? And notice that I said responsible father figure because, sure, I could have had my father present in my life, but if he is a toxic person and he wasn't going to treat me nicely and kindly, then do I really want to have this person by me? Shit, I would rather be under a bridge than share a roof with him. And I know that my life with him would have been hell because when we have hung out, when I got a little older, he would make certain comments that I'm like, holy shit, you are a man from like the 1930s or 40s or 50s, whatever, when they had really close minded views on certain topics. Yeah, you don't need to be in my life. Okay, boomer. So that taught me to be careful what I wish for. Because just because I'm like crying over the fact that I don't have a daddy and how rough my life is and it's unfair, it doesn't mean that him being in the picture, him particularly, like my father, it doesn't mean that that was that key to making me feel better. And even if I would have had a substitute father, like say a stepfather or anything like that, I hate to say this, but the problem with being a stepfather is not that you're not personally capable of being a good substitute parent. It's just that you and my mom, now that I'm an adult, I can say this, but you and my mom are two adults trying to have a relationship. And here I am. I am a child of another man. And what if you and my mom end up having a child? So now I'm going to have a half sibling. It's almost like there's going to inherently be a boundary that is reserved exclusively for a parent, a father. My mom always made it clear to whomever she was dating when we were kids that she takes care of the discipline. She takes care of the upbringing. I cannot be reprimanded by any guy that she dates because otherwise that would be the end of the world for that guy. So I'm thinking, well, all that I'm receiving is that maternal upbringing, maternal discipline. What are the consequences of missing out on paternal discipline, paternal upbringing, paternal protection? And I feel like that piece is missing in my brain, and it was beginning to show when I was a teen. That's when I felt most vulnerable, most unprotected, most confused. And I told to myself, if I'm not getting along with my mom, that's it. I'm fucked. It's the end of the world because my mom always told me that she is all that I have. And it is true. But at the same time, the bad thing about me being brought up with that mindset is that I felt like I couldn't reach out to anybody else. It's my mom always had the answers. And I'm satisfied with what she gave me. But remember, she's still a person, an individual with her limitations. She may not be good at math. She may not be good at finances. She may not be good at things like investing and politics, topics that affect me. She is like starving me in those areas. And a father figure could have been better at that. My father knows about everything that my mom doesn't know about. Let's just put it that simple. He knows about camping, which mom knows, but it's just a very small amount, a little bit. If I had to pick between him and mom to like be lost in the wilderness, I will pick my dad. I'll let you know. I'll pick my dad no matter what. He knows about business and like politics, like real matters like that. And my mom, she's always like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I'm not aware of anything about that. So you see, I'm grateful for my mom. Absolutely, 100%. I cannot say I suffered physically under her care. I was always fed. I was always safe. I was always clean. I always had clean clothes. She was functional in that area. Mentally, here and there. Emotionally, here and there. And remember, this is a person who has her issues as well. And she wasn't aware of the issues that she had. And how am I, as a kid, supposed to be able to identify that she is a person with issues? So that is the part in me that said, I am missing a piece and I am not getting this piece. So, what can I do to ensure that that deficiency does not fuck me up in the future? So, I guess my picture was looking like I need to find my missing piece. Like, what can I do to ensure that I don't stay stuck in this abyss forever because my resources were limited? Whatever picture comes up from what I just said, missing piece, whether it be like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle or something, whatever that looks like, that is what my picture looked like. But it was just more like imagine that you want to play a movie, but you're not turning on the TV. The movie player, let it be your PlayStation, your DVD, your Blu ray, whatever, it's playing. The machine is spinning the disc, but your TV is not projecting an image. That's what I felt like. It's like I am that movie, but it's not projecting properly because I don't have my equipment. That is probably the best description I can give, but that's not necessarily the picture I had at the time. I can tell you that I'm able to use that example because my critical thinking is much better these days. And hey, as you get older, you're supposed to get better. You're supposed to improve. If you're not improving, then you're living life wrong. But yeah, it's looking back, I just wish that I could get not even my entire adolescence or my entire childhood back. I wish I could get like just 2 of those years back. 2 years from my childhood and 2 years from my teenage years, and just give myself a little bit of the mentality that I have now. And at least I would have been sad about the things that I didn't have, but I wouldn't let it absorb my thoughts so much, like my spirit, my waking hours. I would be able to probably enjoy music even more than I enjoyed it back then. I would be able to enjoy eating. I mean, I had the worst diet ever in my life back in those years. So maybe I could have told myself, hey, start to explore that taste of life through food. And if you eat better, you look better because holy shit, I used to not think favorably of my appearance when I was a kid and when I was a teen. Oh, goodness gracious. But I feel like if I would have eaten better, I certainly would have looked better because I would be getting like my proper nutrition and whatnot. But that's really nobody's fault. It was a combination of ignorance, but also lack of resources. And of course, now that I've gotten older, I am beginning to suffer the consequences of not having fortified myself so well back then. But hey, we did the best what that we could with the resources that we had. And like I said before, no matter what, I cannot say I was suffering from hunger. And that's what matters. You do the best that you can with what you have. Um, where am I at? I like your candle setup. It is realness, a true reason to grasp the stream for the well motivated anyway. Thanks. Well, I'm glad that you like it. I cannot say I've done that before, except for that one video that I recorded when I was like at the verge of death because I couldn't breathe. I was afraid that that was going to happen at some point because Sprint, now T-Mobile, still hasn't figured out what to do about me having shitty reception at home. Like, even if I'm outside, I have the worst reception ever. But I'll continue to bug them. I'm definitely being a Karen toward them. Anyways, I tried to stop talking as soon as I noticed that the thing started to buffer. I help out homeless people all the time. Most of them need help. Only really a small, a few are unhelpable. I love candles. I love candles too. It was a friend of mine who got me into them about a year ago when I visited her place. I was like, wait, you're burning a candle? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, what, you've never seen a candle before? And I'm like, no, it's just that candles at home were not really used to be air fresheners or used for like enhancing the ambience. It was more for, hey, let's have a few candles around in case the power goes out at night and we need to take showers and we need to be able to like move about the house. So, yeah, candles were pretty much emergency items. It's like the first aid kit. Are you recurring to the first aid kit every single day? No, because you're not bleeding every single day, hopefully. So you have the first aid kit for when emergencies happen. So you have candles for when emergencies happen. So now I have tried to set up a little budget, like setting aside like 50 cents every paycheck, and then whenever I can, like another $2 every other paycheck so that I can continue to buy candles. And I had no idea how fucking expensive candles were until I started buying them. And I was telling a friend, yo, guess what? I just bought my first candle. And they were like, okay. And I'm like, you don't understand. I bought a candle. I was raised to always buy the things that were necessary. So, like food and pay my bills and anything else like entertainment, disposable shit. I can't do that. I can't indulge in games. I can't indulge in like non-essentials. I bought a goddamn non-essential. Do you understand how this is a big deal now? I'll never forget the first time I bought candles. I was at Target and I was like, shit, I like how this smells. I loved what it did to the home of my friend that I just visited. Fuck it, I'm buying candles. And ever since I started buying my candles, there have been more candles burning at home that I don't start. I'm not saying I started the trend. I'm saying that I solidified it. But seriously, candles are so magical. Like that's one of the very few things in life that I feel I'm going to be like unnecessarily spending money on, like say candles and leggings. For right now, candles and leggings have been the discovery that I'm like, fuck it. These are the two non-essentials that I'm gonna try to spoil myself with. And I have also tried going to the movie theater, and I recorded that for you guys. Like, hey, my first experience going into the movie theater alone. I've done that 2 times. I went to see Frozen 2, and I went to see that one Dragon Ball Z movie with Broly on it, the newer one. And yeah, I said I never in my life thought I would buy a movie ticket for myself, by myself. I have bought my own ticket before when I was out in a date, but never did I think I would wake up one day and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna see this movie at the theater. To me, that was a big deal. And video games. Um, the first time I spent money on video games ever since I have been making money, it was 2 years ago when my brother moved in and he brought his stuff and he had a PS4 and he said, "Hey, do you want to try beating this Dragon Ball game?" It was Xenoverse 2. He said, "I bought it and I've never beaten it." He was on the fucking second level. Like the level after you fight Raditz and all these people. And I was like, "Are you shitting me? You didn't get beyond like the Saiyan saga? Fuck me." So anyway, and then after that, I started exploring how a PlayStation works these days because prior to the PS4, I stopped at the PS2. I had no idea that you could turn on the fucking console using your controller. I had no idea how to navigate that PlayStation Store. And the fact that you need like a fucking subscription to that PlayStation Network to access certain features within the games. And I thought, hold on. You mean that after I pay 80 fucking dollars on a game, I still gotta pay more on top of that for a get the fuck out of here. So so I said there is no way I'm going to be spending money on this. But since he'll be gone for prolonged periods of time, I have fallen victim to this one game that I heard so much about back in 2014 while I was also waiting for MGS5 to come out so I could watch people playing it through online. I fell victim to Mortal Kombat X. And of course, I ended up buying Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And oh my goodness, I cannot get enough of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. But my only sadness with that game is that it doesn't really have like a night and day cycle. I don't know why, but Dragon Ball Z disappoints me so much by their lack of like nighttime activity. But I also understand that I guess at the time animation was just something that was being improved on. And there's no weather cycle either. So for an open world game, I would expect something like that. And I'm also sad that there's no, say, no space exploration. How come they don't think about this? Give me a Dragon Ball game in which I can go to like different planets, be in the spaceship, or using instant transmission. I guess it's too much to ask for when it comes to gaming capabilities, but literally make a game that those are the mechanics, like space exploration. Because I feel like we're missing out on that. Make it like Star Fox or something. Or give me a game in which I play as the villain. Give me a game in which I'm Frieza and I'm commanding my army and recruiting people from other planets. And, like, why do I always have to get a fucking Dragon Ball game that is you start off as Goku? You may or may not fight Piccolo, but you and Piccolo definitely fight against Raditz, and you get a hole drilled in your chest. You may or may not see it depending on the game's rating. And then after that, you go to Namek and fuck the Namek saga, yo. It's so long. Like, it's almost as long as I'm old right now. Like, fuck the Namek saga. I like Frieza as a villain. I really do. It was a genius character. But damn, the Namek saga just Ugh, it drains me. But see what I'm saying? Why do we have to constantly replay that same goddamn story every fucking Dragon Ball game? At least we have elements from Super like Whis and Beerus and you know the different transformations, but what's the next fucking transformation going to be? Like Super Saiyan Zeno or something? You know, something crazy. Like you're already at God level. Can you not develop on Piccolo? Like, what are the Dragon Balls? We got GT, you know, they get evil if you use them too much, but GT is not canon. So, you know, just like my boyfriend said, the Dragon Balls are the one thing that's not explained very well. Who exactly made them? And, you know, sure, they're from Namek and whatever, but like, who had the power to create these things? And, you know, seven of them, what's the symbol behind seven? Do they still have mini dragons inside of them? The Shenron, Omega Shenron, and you know, once again, that's GT. GT's not canon, but fuck, stop giving me the same boring ass Dragon Ball game. I'm sick of it. Give me a different plot. Or give me, you guys follow the little comic online. I don't really read this. I only know what my boyfriend has told me, but they created a what is it, parallel universe in which Goku did not hit his head and he's evil and whatever. You know, give me some of that. But but anyway, we keep getting the same fucking games and I'm just disappointed. But anyway, what I rambled away about to say is that I never thought I would spend my hard-earned money on video games because that was just not in my picture, especially with like my financial situation, you know? What is the candle scent? Please forget the grammar. This candle scent is coconut and shit. I forget what else is in it. I'm gonna have to come back to it. I know it's some kind of sweet. It's not grapefruit, but it's not plum either. Let me see if I can see it from here. Um, yeah, it is fig, I guess. Some kind of fig. And it smells really nice. I was surprised by how nice it smells. I've never had this combo before. If it's not fig, it's plum. It's one of those. The label happens to be facing the opposite direction, and I know for a fact I won't be able to see what the label says because like the flame will probably blind me before I can see it. And it's burned too much, so like I won't be able to see the label so well. Let's see, where am I at? Candles are nice till you have to out it. The smoke smell from outing is more aggressive than the scent of a silent fart. Oh my god, yes. I've always wondered, you know, how the hell can I put out this flame without that freaking char smell lingering? Ugh, it makes me so sick. And don't get me started on putting it out when the candle is like mostly burnt and you have a tall container and you have to like maneuver your way through it to be able to like blow it out. Yeah, nah, it's terrible. I realize since I like to play with heat, if you dunk 2 fingers in the candle wax, then when your fingers are coated, you can use your fingers to out the flame with minimal fart smoke. That makes sense because you're going to melt a little bit of the wax that's in your fingers. So that will coat the wick a little bit and yeah, that's actually pretty clever. I am a chicken for dangerous things. So I'm definitely not gonna try that. And I'm trying to imagine trying to scoop out some of the wax, whether it be with like a rod or a spoon or something. Just no, I'm too chicken for that. So if we ever hang out, burn a candle and show me that way. Show me the way for doing that. I am sorry to have asked you that. I know it is on a personal level, but I appreciate your bravery, uh, will to attempt to answer a question. You have been there. I appreciate you. Matter of factly, I appreciate that question so much because it freaking challenged me. And it is important to be able to explain how you arrive at a thought. And sometimes that little picture, you guys ever like, you ever laugh at something that someone says because a funny picture came to your mind? I realized that when it comes to the sadder side of me, there are no pictures. It's just feelings, sensations, uh, thoughts, but they don't have a picture. They don't have a face. They don't have a smell. It's like I guess the best way to describe it would be if you're a religious person, you believe in things and you're guided by faith. You're guided by like let's call it your gut if you want to give it a physical identity. But when it comes to giving my depression a picture, I remember when I tried to draw something dark and I was trying to sort of draw myself as a not like a stick figure but a stick figure with like cartoonish effects. And I remember that I had drawn myself with long sleeves, and then there was like a little necklace that that lace part was like a chain, and then it had like a little heart pendant that read love in it. And basically I was holding it, and then my hair was like it was what it was at the time, really long. And I drew it more on the straight side and parted it on the left side. Those years I used to part my hair from the left side and not the right side like I do now. And I remember that I was wearing like some kind of, it was like some kind of coat. Let's call it an emo kind of character. And then the background, it had like some shading going on and maybe like a few lightning sparks from the distance. But I remember that I had that picture for a long time. And then I decided to trim it and I only kept the face. And I know I glued it to something, but I don't think I have that now. And basically, I drew that, and I remember that it was because I was really sad about not being able to like hang out with some guy that I was beginning to see, which would later become my first boyfriend. And and oh my god, that was just mega dark. And for me, when it comes to personal questions like that, they're not difficult necessarily. I'm not like a person who shuts that discussion out because when I was younger, I was as curious as I am in the present day. I remember how important it was for me to ask questions and to have them answered. And a great source of my anxiety used to be not having answers. And in my relationships, you know how guys tend to suck about talking about their emotions? Well, if a guy was upset at me for some reason and they wouldn't give me an explanation, that was like the worst kind of pain. I hated not having an answer. And say if I have someone who, I don't know, I sell something to, and they say they're not happy, they're not satisfied, they're disappointed, I'm like, okay, what happened? Where did I go wrong? What did not meet your expectation? And the reason I ask that is not because I give a damn about your feelings. I don't. It's more because I look at it as I have room for improvement. It's more of a selfish reason. It's if it were me, I would not want for this to happen to me if it is my fault that this person had a bad time. That's it. I let it go. If it's someone who's like coming more from an emotional perspective as opposed to, hey, I was disappointed that this was not the way you described it. This does not serve the function that you promised, or something like, say, this jacket turned out to not be as warm as I thought, or something. It's like, sweetie, you gotta keep in mind that maybe we're two different people, two different builds, two different races. You may process that cold a little less efficiently than I do. Sorry. Something like that. Um to give you a crazy example. But yeah, just it is so difficult now to go back to those days. And since it's been quite some time, I mean, it's been over 10, 12, 13 years for sure. Then some of it is kind of like fading. But my earliest memory of me being sad was like when I was 8. And then I got better. But then I want to say at age 14, I want to say like halfway into age 14 is when I started to like lose my shit. That's when my happy days were over. My happier days as a kid/teen were over. Where am I at? Don't you think it is odd that most wild non-human animal moms are the most deadliest in the wild protecting their young? But it is the opposite for humans, wild or domesticated. You know, it's funny that you say that because last night, not last night, 2 nights ago, it doesn't matter when, but I like to reference it. I was watching on Disney. I stole someone's Disney Plus password. Nah, I didn't steal it, they gave it to me. I was like, hey, Disney has something called Disney Nature. I need to watch some science. I need to watch some animals, even though YouTube is polluted with that kind of content. I want to see how Disney handles it. So I watched the one called Born in China, and they had this snow leopard, and they named her Dawa. And she reminded me of what you just said, Garuda. I said, holy fucking shit. Female anything, female bear, female leopard, female anything. It's just bad fucking news. Because all they're thinking about is, I got cubs, I have to protect. She attack, she protect. But, it's insane, freaking insane how your psychology just changes the moment that a little creature comes out of your body. And it makes sense. I mean, you spend time bonding with this thing. It's your responsibility. It is your meaning. It is your dream, your fantasy, so on and so forth. I'm not a mom, so I don't know. I can only go by what my maternal instinct wants to imagine the experience to be, and of course whatever has been shared with me. But at the same time, the I guess let's call it the good thing about being a wild animal is that there's no societal construct. The only societal construct is for you to be at the top of the food chain. But I guess when you're part of a civilization, that instinct is deemed as something that is not civil, civilization, civility, whatever that means. So maybe people go crazy because our behavior is being, what is it, manipulated to fit into a construct that we're really not meant to be, into. So sometimes when I see people doing crazy things, like legitimately crazy things, I think of it as, I honestly feel like this person is just not compatible with the way of life that we have pre-established. Like, look at it as nobody consulted you prior to your birth to decide what did you want to look like, what did you want to be, where did you want to be born, what language did you wish to speak, what physical build did you wish to have. Imagine if people had a choice. We would all look pretty different, I'm pretty sure. And imagine if you also had the knowledge of, let's pretend that the world is still the way we know it, where some people are, let's call it, more privileged than others. So, would people still opt for choosing to be part of a community that inherently struggles, but they look at it as, hey, these people are more, they have a better relationship with the environment. They're not deemed as civil, but they live happier lives overall because they understand how to be one with their surroundings. Whereas the modern person, the civilized world, quote unquote, relies too much on the tools that are supplied to them. But if you take away their tools, like their little cell phones, their homes sheltered in the way that they are, how did people survive hurricanes like in the 1400s or 1500s before our homes were built as we know them, which, a little bit of wind still blows them away, you know? So that knowledge, those abilities, what would you like to be born with? Would you like to have an edge in the civilized world, or would you like to belong to the so called uncivilized world, which to me has more civility than what we call civilized worlds? You know? So it's pretty interesting to see, but basically, this watching this thing on Disney, it reminded me of that. Like, wow, females are, like, I say the stuff that I say here on the channel sometimes where I come off as potentially like misogynistic and unappreciative of my own kind, right? But when I look at what happens in nature, I think, shit, if I wanted to be influenced by anything or anybody, I think an animal would be a better example. But I say that because people, when the power goes out, they freak out, you know? When anything modern that we depend on, like the internet and stuff, when we have outages like that, we freak the fuck out. So, wild animals, what does it take for them to freak the fuck out? An invader, like a top predator that, takes care of that current top predator. Something like that, something extreme. But it's interesting how in the Disney show, the female snow leopard was dominating a piece of like territory, and then she was able to like challenge, I guess it was another female, and she had her own cubs too, but she was trying to like take over that territory, that was territory, because they were running out of things to hunt on their side. But then eventually, this other snow leopard's cubs had grown enough to where some males were able to like take over as well. So for a little bit, the female was like at the top, but then, shit happens. You get outnumbered, you're in danger now. But that was such a cool thing to watch. But anyway, let's see, where am I at? Uh, you just need to soul search and find yourself. You are the only one who can. Man, now that you mentioned that, it's been insane because I honestly tried to understand that, like soul searching, what is it? And then I told myself, maybe I'm just making it complicated. Maybe soul searching is all about fucking knowing myself. Who am I? What am I? Not who am I expected to be? Who am I wanted to be? But who am I? And once I started focusing on that, like, hey, I'm the girl who likes to stay up at night. I like to eat well, but other times I like to let myself go only to recover. I like challenges. I like the unconventionally, uh, what is it? Or I guess I should say conventionally masculine things, such as the more technical things, even though I'm not good at it, but I like to learn a little bit about construction. I like to learn a little bit about truckers and just stuff like that. The stuff that I normally wouldn't be encouraged to pursue because it was like male territory. Did you guys know that when I was growing up, I was not allowed to pick things in the color blue because blue was a guy color? Yeah, that happened to me. My favorite color is navy. And anytime I would gravitate toward things that were blue or navy, I was always told, hey, you have to go for like the yellow or the pink one. And I really didn't have much of a choice until I was like 8 or 9. But I'm like, how stupid. How fucking stupid. But anyway, I'm the girl who likes to practice music and I'm not so good at it, but the little bit that I understand, I embrace it and appreciate it and I try to get better. And I like to watch wrestling and I don't watch it as much anymore, but when I was a kid, shit. Oh my goodness. I like violence, like on TV, on movies. That stuff is awesome to me. And yeah, this is just who and what I am. And no, I'm not going to conform to what's expected of me. And in a sense, that's one of the things that I guess I should say. I'm glad I'm alive now and not some decades ago, because it would have been a little bit more difficult for me to be able to like embrace myself for being this way, at least without being mentally or physically abused for it, I guess. But yeah, soul searching. I really cannot say that I have succeeded at that. I'm not sure that it has the same meaning for me that it may have for others. But I find it that one of the most important things about the person I am today versus the person I was growing up was that I hated being alone from a social perspective, but now I like being alone a little too much. And that's because I can be peaceful alone with my thoughts. And if I am going to do something with my thoughts, it happens when I want to. So, say, this stream, I decided that I had this topic in my mind. I decided to initiate the stream. It happened because I wanted to, and I have absolute full control over it. And this is a topic that had occurred to me many years ago. So it took me years to get to it. But at least it's not like it was a binding thing. It's like, nah, man, this happens when I want to. It may not happen. But that sense of freedom, I feel that's the freedom to be able to look at my current circumstances and be like, I am doing what I can handle. which is I'm not a very social person. I am not sure if that's the consequence, as a consequence of me having been deprived of social activity, or maybe this is who I have been the whole time and I just didn't know. I don't know, but but I'm just grateful that I don't look at my current circumstances resembling how I was in the past, minus me being more productive these days because I'm an adult with responsibilities. But at least I'm able to not curse upon that feeling of shit. I'm alone and I don't like it, but I don't know what to do about it. You know, that confused state. So maybe JP, maybe pertaining to your question from earlier, maybe the reason I can't picture it now is because it was just confusion that I had growing up. And now, since I got over that, it's like, shit. It's null in my brain now. So yeah, yeah, that's I can't say I have a lot of relationships with soul searching individuals or that I have done that. It's one of those things that maybe I should do like a guided meditation, be guided on soul searching. Let's see. I am 34 and still searching my soul to find my true self. I figured out who I am, but not my true self. It almost sounds like it's the same thing, but I can see the subtle difference if I think about it for a second. You're not really missing out on anything except punching out someone's teeth out or shooting ducks, I suppose. I appreciate what your mom did to upbring you with such a strong heart. And yeah, for sure, like if I ever express something negative about her, I can definitely always counter it by being like, hey, to be fair, this is what the lady was going for. It was just not executed in a way that suited my personality, something like that. But I know that she's never had ill intent. If she would have had ill intent, then okay, like the story would be different. But no, you know, you do what you can with what you have. Nobody has a guide book for any of this. So, but since you mentioned that, I have learned that even the people who seem to live fuller lives, it doesn't necessarily mean that it made them feel like better about themselves. I think humans inherently have like an existential crisis going on. Depending on the candle, you can get good aromatherapy. Those are the fancy candles. The cheap candles are for emergency light. Yeah, definitely. The ones that we had for like emergency lighting, those were definitely the crappy kind that, you know, the wax is almost like unmeltable or something. And when you burn them, even if they have different colors, they don't smell like anything. Put it this way, it's like buying lotion that's unscented. It's fucking boring, but if you have an emergency, like allergies and shit, you better go for it. Um, oh yeah, but some of the candles that I've been seeing these days, they really like to highlight the fact that they have like an essential oil or something. This one doesn't. Shit, what did I do? No, no, no. Go back. Go back. Okay. Hopefully I'm still rolling. Okay. Yeah, the timer's gone. Um, when I was young in the Caribbean, we had candles during hurricane season. We used non-scented candles to light up corners so we don't burn out the batteries in our flashlights. You are right, Garuda Legends. Aromatic candles are expensive. Cheap ones are for emergency lighting. For sure. Thanks. Yeah, the ones that I buy are the ones that are like from Wax Blends. That's usually the name. Or soy wax, especially. I find that those burn a whole lot better and they don't leave a lot of residue at the bottom. But it also depends on the shape of the jar, too. And of course, how many wicks it has. The worst burning ones are the ones that only have like one wick. A candle can burn longer than a battery always on. In a flashlight, the tall candles with the picture of Jesus' mothers last long as fuck Mary. Yep, definitely. Definitely more reliable. And also, you guys, I discovered that if you have a candle somewhat, safely close to you, it actually can be a pretty nice source of heat. Like, you feel a little bit like the subtle warmth that they exude. And I always kept telling myself, why is it that my room is a little bit warm? I feel some warmth, but I don't have a heater on. And it's definitely the candle. Like, I'm not saying burn a candle and your room will be instantaneously like room temperature during the winter, nothing like that. But I mean, if you're struggling and you can't run the heat for prolonged periods of time because you don't want like a $200 electric bill, candles must not be underestimated. I just wish that I could burn more than one at the same time. But, since I cannot afford them very often, then I'm like, hey, let me make sure that since the ones that I buy are like the ones that are somewhat good quality, like they're usually the worst I have bought is like $23 because they have like wood wicks and it was a massive jar and it's supposed to be made from more like natural ingredients. I said to myself, let's go back to 2012 YOLO $23 candle. I forget the name of the brand, but it has like a wooden lid, so you can tell that they're trying to be like give you that feeling that they're high end or something. But I genuinely bought it because I genuinely like the scent. And since it's a wood wick, it crackles and it took me a while to get used to that fucking noise. But but I spoil myself with one of those at least like every season. It's like, okay, it's been 6 months. Let me buy the fancy one. Then let me go back down to like the $15 one or the $10 one. And I like to buy the bigger one because I feel like it's a better buy. So if they have the kind that I like, but let's say that one of them is like 12 ounces and the other one is like 7, just go ahead and buy the 12 one. It's a better buy. It's just a way better deal. Um, let's see. DB Super explains who made the Dragon Balls. Shamron is the Cosmo Protector of all Dragon Balls. Indeed, it's just bizarre to me that we had to wait for Super to come out to get an explanation on the Dragon Balls, and on top of that, you had fucking planet-sized Dragon Balls. What? That came out of nowhere. Wax is hot but won't give you burn your fingers or give you blisters. A lot of couples use it during foreplay and drip it on their bodies. You know what? One of the funnest things to do when I was a kid, on the rare occasion that candles were being burnt, it was the fucking candle wax, like dipping my finger on it and it drying up and coating my finger, and then I would peel it and it was like it went from liquid to solid and that it falling apart. That science, that discovery, experience, that was extraordinary for me. But now looking back, it's like, holy shit, I was so fucking silly. That could have been dangerous. But of course, when you blow out the candle, that's when, all the fun wax is at the bottom. So I would dip every single one of my fingers into it, like just my fingertips. And that weird feeling when you try to like rub your fingers together and be like, this is like wearing gloves. You're rubbing your fingers, but you can't feel your skin rubbing against your own skin because there's like an obstruction. But wax is like, it's warm, but it doesn't burn, like Garuda said. But it's so fucking cool. Because if, say, if you have like a green candle, gray, navy, that's the color that your fingers will have. You ever see cats with the little things that you can put on their claws, that it's kind of like a plastic. I've never had it, but a friend of mine, her cat had it, and I kept saying, why does your cat, when she runs over the hardwood floor, why does it sound so high pitched? And then she said, oh, because she has the little claw protector thingies. And I had no idea those were a thing. I think a vet has to put those on because I can't imagine someone untrained being able to tame a cat to be chill enough to allow themselves to have them things put on them. I cannot talk about my feelings with a female who I like. I don't want to change her for me or say something to lose her. I tend to just lie and adopt. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting territory. If I found out my guy was lying to me about his feelings, I would look at it as, I think he was just trying to protect me from like becoming worried or stressed or something. But at the same time, I would feel like I'm being deprived of being able to perform my role as a woman, which I think, I would imagine I may dominate the emotional sector a little better. I'm not saying that females have a better emotional state than guys, not at all. What I'm saying is that if I'm so good at voicing my own thoughts and let you be my hero and solve some of my struggles when I need it, then why would you not let me be your superhero and be like, okay, you're struggling with this and that. I'm here to tell you that everything is going to be okay. You know that it's going to be okay. You say that to me, but sometimes just because you're the leader doesn't mean that you cannot be told that everything's going to be all right. So it would feel a little bit like betrayal, like what the fuck, what am I good for in your life besides like the fun stuff? I get worried when a guy doesn't tell me that he's struggling with something for long periods of time because I know that nobody's life is perfect. So I wouldn't want for you to feel compelled to give me the projection that everything is okay with you when it isn't. To me, this might sound a little weird, but I tend to gravitate toward people who are struggling or people who are kind of like breaking or broken because I remember times when I was struggling with things and I was helped by my teachers and the few people who I knew genuinely loved me and whatnot. And it was a good feeling to be relieved by these people. And I'm pretty sure that they felt great knowing that they helped me. So if you're a broken person and I know it, I will probably gravitate towards you because I want you to experience that great relief that I felt when someone was there for me at my most vulnerable times. So if it's a male pride thing, I understand. Like, I'm not here to tell you that's toxic masculinity. Blah, 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 blah. I'm never gonna say that. I want to understand why you think that way. But if it affects you negatively, then I would hope that we can try to maybe together explore a way for you to manage that better, more efficiently. But I'm not trying to change you necessarily. I only want you to handle that better if it's affecting you. But if it means that your personality has to go for some reason, then maybe that's not the problem. I don't know if that made sense, but if I were to be like that, like think the opposite, I don't think I would be in a relationship right now because my boyfriend is kind of like that. He's like, okay, I have these struggles, but I'm not changing. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to change, but just know that maybe a better version of this matter exists out there, waiting to be discovered and waiting to be enjoyed by you. But if you don't desire it, then hey, you don't have to pursue things that you don't feel are necessary for you. But, you know, it's, I guess that's where men and women are just different. Because for you, it may not be a big deal to reveal your stuff, but for women, it's like we want our guy to be our best friend as well. And I can see why that can be a little not the best approach to a relationship if your personality is not like compatible with that. And I had to learn to not resent that about my boyfriend because I used to look at it as, wow, he just does not give a damn about me or about what happens to me. But I realized that I was actually being pretty toxic because for some reason I wanted him to feel as mad as I felt about some things. Not necessarily, I don't want it to sound like I wanted him to be depressed with me and eat a whole pint of ice cream or a whole quart because I'm depressed or anything. Nothing like that. It was more of, hey, this is what I'm going through. It sucks. I hope it never happens to you, and I hope I can protect you from it. But when a guy thinks that I'm trying to make him accompany me in my misery, you haven't been listening to me and you have been misunderstanding me. I would never want to inflict pain into someone I love. I mean, duh. But anyway. Um, I am a tracker. My favorite color is teal and aquamarine blue. I also like salmon and not pink. I am too manly to wear pink. Supposedly, pink used to be a pretty masculine color way back when. I'm not sure if that's a fact, but it's possible. And teal is like, it's probably my fourth favorite color because it seems to be the color that dominates my surroundings a lot, especially my clothes. So yeah, good choice. Let's see. Look up your astronomical and zodiac sign. I guess you mean astrological. Soul searching is only for you and you only. It will lead you to your connection with Earth and the cosmos. I remember that I used to read the zodiac a lot when I was in high school, and I found that as a great source of motivation because, I am a roaring Leo. So I always felt like, I gotta have that pride in me, like I have that lion stuff going on. So, honor thy lion. But then I said to myself, unfortunately, I have to look at it as a little bit on the negative side, which is, hey, the the version of astrology that I can access tends to be the one that's like a person's motive is to get paid for some of this, right? And then I started noticing that sometimes the advice that would come up for me would be like rephrased for another sign. And I looked at it as this is just generic positive things to say about each sign. Because trust me, the times that it said that I would have a good time with money did not necessarily mean I had a great time with money. But then I also looked at it as, hey, it's the shifting of the stars, Like as the seasons pass, stuff just rearranges. So who says that this isn't true? But but yeah, that's one of those things that I tread a little carefully on, only because no one has really encouraged me for that. So you would be the first person to actively encourage me to look at my zodiac and stuff. So I've always treated it like it's fictional. Um, yep, candle wax on fingers is the easiest way to put the wick out without burning your fingers and minimize the smoke. You see, this is why I hide my feelings from women I love. I have a little idea. I have little idea what females think. I don't want to rock the boat. I just want her to be happy. I rather her change me than change her. And see, this is interesting. I should be able to talk about this because I am a verified female, but sometimes I feel like I myself may not entirely know how to woman properly because, sure, even though I grew up with my mom and my mom alone, we are so different. We're very similar in some things, but some things were just incredibly different. And I feel like I wasn't really coached on how to be a female properly, but at the same time, how do you do that? I don't want my mom teaching me how to like pick up guys and stuff. Or say, give me advice on like intimate stuff like that. I can take her advice from a more, say, family history of certain diseases approach, like, hey, yeah, when I was your age, I had, I don't know, whatever she may have struggled with. Let's say crazy things like rashes, acne, allergies, or there's history in the family of this type of cancer, this and that. That information is good, but when it comes to on a social setting, sometimes I explore other people's channels and listen to guys talking about how they look at relationships and looking at women and how they look at relationships. And I'm like, I'm a goddamn alien. I'm gonna die alone because, damn, if that's what guys want, I'm I'm just not compatible with that. And if this is how girls are and how we're supposed to be, well, fuck, I was born into the wrong body because that's not how I think and see things at all. And that's why I say, even the people who claim to be experts in like relationships and whatnot, you cannot say that your formula is applicable for everybody because Garuda, let's just randomly pick on you since you discuss this randomly and pretty often. You seem to be the kind of guy who you may be accidentally labeled as a guy who's more on like, let's call you, let's rank you on the beta side because, oh my God, you're there for your woman. You want your girl to be happy. So you may be perceived as someone who's submissive to the female. And that's like, oh, outrageous. You cannot do that. But I also look at it as, hey, you want to give your girl the best because you love her, you care about her, and you genuinely find pleasure in giving this person pleasure. I can empathize with that because I am like that. Like, even though I have never really been loved by any of my boyfriends to the extent that I feel a human being can have feelings for another human being who's not like a child or something, like say, let's say romantically and intimately, I have been so like deprived in that department in all of my relationships. But even though that's true, I still give my guy everything, even if I'm not like 100% invested in them, interested in them, in love with them, whatever you want to call it. I still like to give this person respect. If we're in a relationship, I will honor that, just like I would honor marriage vows. And that is the most selfless and kind, every positive adjective ever that you can do as a person. But somehow people miss that, and that's why I feel so bad when I see a guy who's like really madly in love with a girl, but the girl does not appreciate him and takes him for granted. Oh my God, I see red when I notice that. And then we also live in a society where men are being discouraged now. You have this woke community of people who you had, okay, a handful of bad relationships because you were bad at choosing your partners or whatever. And now you're out here preaching that women are evil. And yeah, women are shit in some things, but men are shit in some things too. And yeah, the feminist movement be saying all this crazy stuff, right? But imagine if every single one of us took that to heart. We wouldn't get married, we wouldn't have kids, we wouldn't live, we wouldn't do things. So it's weird to me that when a guy expresses that they want to give everything for their girl, they get slapped with the beta label, and I'm thinking, shit, I would give anything for a guy to like give me that place in his life, because I would be incredibly compatible with that. But it's cool now to be all tough looking and cold and distant and independent. And that just saddens me, because this life is so difficult to like trudge along in by yourself. And now you have society promoting that being by yourself is the way to go. But the reality of it is that four hands get more done than two. So, like, I don't know. It's when I was like 14, I started telling myself life is a psychological game. Life is just a psychological game. And I think that's part of the thing that helped me survive those terrible years. I may not have had a strong, like, spiritual connection to anything, but mentally, like I said earlier, I've never struggled with my mental well-being. It's more emotional. Um, in my opinion, females cannot comprehend men. Let's just be different and stay in love. Yeah, exactly. Men and women are different. We have to be different. But I find that men are incredibly simple, and then us women were like really detail oriented. And I found that being detail oriented was fueling my depression, because I was looking for more reasons where there was nothing else. I wanted more, more things. Just say the place is too small, too little. That little word, TOO, to this, to that. Like, fuck it, man. Do wonders what you have. But men are so simple, and that's something that I envy about guys. It's like a long time ago, I used to look at it as, wow, guys are just really bad at everything. They're just irresponsible and sloppy and this and that. But somehow They are great architects, great construction workers, great workers in general. How would things be done well, like, say, houses prevented from collapsing, if they were really that sloppy, if they were bad at what they did? So that's when I started looking at it as, hey, just because they are not exhibiting the same dominance in certain areas and fields as I am, especially emotionally, doesn't mean that they're bad at what they're doing. They just have a more efficient way of processing certain things, and other things they just need help with. Like my boyfriend, I'll never forget, every time he has like a family member who passes on, he's instantly like thinking about, okay, I can anticipate I may need to leave work early. I may need to do this and that and that and this. But he's not stressing about it. He's like, when that day comes, that's when I'll know what to do. And I'm like, nah, man, you have to plan in advance for this. And, what do you mean you'll leave it for the last minute? And everything just fucking works out. Whereas I was like taking a more stressed approach. And that's where I said to myself, man, overthinking is, it's nice to be able to think, but overthinking is like my kryptonite. So little by little, I have been reshaping my mind, but it's been difficult because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not like I had a father figure early on to be able to see, or any male figure for prolonged periods of time to be able to see how they process things differently. I always thought that mom's way of looking at things was the right way, the only way, the exclusive way. And now that I'm older, I realize, shit, that's not accurate. Oh my God. Okay, where am I at? I am an Aries and Taurus, cusp of power. My spiritual animal is a tiger. I realized why people always complained about who I am. Now I am trying to work up myself. I am hard headed as fuck. When people tell me take the left turn, I turn right. This is my biggest issue. I've been trying to work on my stubbornness and hard headedness. See, when it comes to making stubborn decisions, I have actually become, and don't get too wild or crazy or excited about this, but I have actually come to admire the people who did that, the people who defied advice, only because under certain circumstances, it actually leads you down a better path. Like, you're much happier than what you had originally planned or what people had advised for you. Just remember that your life is your life. You have like complete control of its direction. So who's to say that just because turning right is like the right way to go? Who says that there's no alternate route to get to what you're trying to get to? It doesn't matter as long as you make it. Who cares? Who cares about when? Who cares about how? What matters is you made it. And I think that me wanting to be a teacher developed that for me. I looked at it as, I'm going to have challenging students and non challenging students. I will appreciate the challenging students, because the challenging students, if I'm able to help them like push through and pass, that lets me know that, hey, I am a hell of a teacher and I'm a good mentor. But it also teaches me to not give up on someone. And just because this person is taking longer doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It just means that their way of processing life, their way of looking at things, maybe they're figuring stuff out that we have no idea that they have figured out, and they'll shine when their moment comes. But who says that they have to be there with us, you know? So I learned that it doesn't matter how long it takes someone to learn something, as long as they get it, I'm happy. So when it comes to getting somewhere, I used to be that person who was stressed out about being punctual. I thought, oh my God, I have to be there exactly at least be parking by 7:59 to like my 8:30 appointment. And I used to think it was the end of the world if I was 1 minute late or something. Now I get to places when I fucking want to. And I live much happier, less stressed. Like I mentioned earlier about how we live our lives by a strict schedule. This schedule doesn't care about what your emergencies are, whatever. It's just brutal. So continue to do that. Like, as long as it's not endangering you, just continue to be different, defiant, hard headed. Because if everybody followed the same pattern, what would life look like? It would be dull. We wouldn't discover things. Accidents would not help make us better or safer or, you know? So, unless it's something you genuinely want to change because there is a legitimate problem, it's bringing problems to your life, not with people. If it's just people tripping over that, whatever. But like, you genuinely feel like this is harming you, I would say don't change that. I, looking back to my high school years, I used to hate the class clown. But now looking back on the memories I have, I'm thinking, wow, I have so much appreciation for the class clown because now I not only do I gravitate toward broken people, but I also gravitate toward the humorous people. Even when the person is having a misfortunate timing, like say we're discussing something very serious and you're trying to be a clown in the middle of it. I used to be the person who freaked out about someone not taking something seriously, but then all of a sudden they cracked a joke. It doesn't mean they don't care. It just means that they have a different way of processing this information. Who cares? I'm grateful for those people because now I actually have a sense of humor. I used to not have fun when I was in school. I used to be like, okay, I like to learn. I genuinely like to study, but that was it. I wasn't seeing that legitimate fun in it. And now I just have a vast appreciation for people who are like humorous under every circumstance. Submissive to a girl. Okay, so now I am a beta male because I treat a female as an equal. I like it. Bullshit, but I like your inaccurate assumption kitchen jokes inbound. Yeah, like, you guys, are any of you guys aware? Well, I'm pretty sure you are, about the situation with like Meghan and Harry and the Oprah stuff. Okay. So my boyfriend was asking me, why is it that Harry is being looked at as if he's a beta male? And I said, simple, he's being a good husband. Like, he's he's there for his wife, okay? This man's family, like, let's assume that everything she alleges is 100% correct. This man's family brought her pain and she's speaking out about it. He is standing by his wife, but now he's being accused of like being a beta male because he's acting a little bit more submissive to, hey, my wife took me out of that institution, or I left that institution because of my wife, or whatever. This is a decision that I'm pretty sure, no doubt in my mind, they both took as a couple. And Harry is simply being honest, like, hey, my mental health, it was on the line. My wife's well being, it was on the line. Now we have a kid. His safety was on the line too, whatever. That is what a responsible, good parent, father, man, member of society does. But you're trying to put a label on this guy because he prioritized his marriage. I think the people who feel that way are coming from the perspective of, no, his job should come first. His position in society should come first. And I don't know about you guys, but me personally, my home is my sacred temple. If my home is not peaceful, if it's full of problems, if it's a war zone, I cannot be happy. So maybe that's where Harry's coming from. He's like, my marriage, my home, it's collapsing. I need to repair it. It is absolutely essential for me. So he prioritizes that over the rest of his family, over his job, over his title, his position, whatever the fuck. That's what a good husband does. That's why y'all get married. Why, right? You have vows and shit. To me, he's living up to what he promised he would do when he was saying his vows. But I think people have forgotten how to husband. People have forgotten how to wife. So if that's the kind of guy who you are, like your girl is like your priority, shit, where are you? I want you. Because damn, some people are just, they really have their heads too far up their asses. And I think it's because they're allowing for the influences that they expose themselves to online, like the whole woke community. It's like, it's good for some things, but it can be a toxic thing if you're not careful. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate there. Like when a guy expresses that their girl means so much to them and then they get labeled as beta, I see fucking red because I'm thinking you people just don't live in like tight knit communities and you're obsessed with your so called independence. And that's why relationships don't last. When you have kids, they're strangers to you. Like, did you guys ever see any headlines about people who were saying, I don't know what to do with my kids now that I'm in lockdown with them at home? Your own fucking children are strangers to you. You don't see a problem with that? I do. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to convey there. Hopefully I expressed that clearly. Satire or not, you are welcome for my rib. Thank our creator, he made you. See why I don't talk my feelings to females I love. It will get dark super fast. You are on point. This is why I respect you. You use your logic over emotions. I have made respect for you. You are one in a million. Real talk. I appreciate the compliment. And holy shit, how is it 5 a.m. already? Anyway. Nah, Harry is a real man. He gave up kingship for his wife. He would rather have his lady than royalty. He is the embodiment of a good father. Exactly. That is what I said to my boyfriend, but it took me forever to tell him because I hadn't discussed that with anybody, like out loud like that. But yeah, like what happened to people respecting marriage? Y'all just don't know what marriage is or what it's supposed to represent and symbolize. We live in a society of like very temporary things, very short term things. And that's why I said, man, to me, relationships are sacred. When I accept to like be involved with someone, like I mentioned earlier, whether you're the one, whether you bore me, whether you excite me, whether you frustrate me, you 100% have my respect and attention until we part ways, if that's what will happen ultimately. But But that's the problem. I feel like these days people look at things as you have a foot out the door. You're not holding on to your jobs. You're not holding on to your homes. You're not holding on to like your relationships. I don't want to say hold on to them, especially if they're damaging to you, but I would hope that you end the relationship before it gets to that extreme, no matter the circumstance. But you're not holding on to your relationships. You're not even holding on to your own kids and stuff. How do you expect stability when you're not cultivating anything? At the first sign of trouble, both of your feet are out the door. You're not developing patience, tolerance, perseverance, those character traits that are so important. You need to build your fucking character. And that is not achieved if you keep running away from your challenges. That's what I'm saying. You're not bonding with anybody. You're not establishing anything meaningful and real and long lasting. You want for things to last without planting that seed and feeding it, cultivating it. Just anyway, that's what I'm trying to illustrate there. So relationships, it whether they be the romantic kind, the relationship with your kids, relationship with your parents and stuff, that shit needs to be cultivated. And me personally, I get a feeling that my relationship with my father is never really going to like to grow or anything, only because I feel like it would be a very one-sided thing. And the reason I say that is because I know for a fact that my father is not interested in me. He pretends by telling me nice things, like maybe 2 times a year, and telling me how proud he is of me and all that bullshit. But I know for a fact that my time with him, like that impressionable time, that time to, how can I phrase this? That stage when you're developing and stuff, if you didn't achieve that at the time that I was like developing, it ain't gonna happen, because I know myself. And it also doesn't help that he's not interested. But at least I know what not to do to avoid reaching that kind of situation, that circumstance. And I'm only hoping that, the older I get, the better I become. So I can say very confidently that compared to how I used to look at life years ago, it's like, okay, I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. Till death do us apart. Harry's with his wife. I hope it works out. You can tell they are in love. It is borderline a fairy tale story. Yeah, like they definitely seem to be a perfect match, compatible, and they really do not exhibit any hints that they have trouble with each other as a couple. Like, I don't know about you, but ever since Harry has known Meghan, he appears to be a whole lot happier. And I don't know about you guys, but William looks miserable all the damn time. Even when he's trying to project, his regal image or futuristic regal image, that man is like, he's been like polished for his role as future king, whatever. But what I like about the whole Harry Meghan situation is that it is exposing how unsustainable, and I guess in my eyes as an American, it will be easy to say how fake all of that is, because realistically, no human being can live up to so much duty. Like they express, that their role is like the queen, whatever her speech was all them decades ago. about how her life will be dedicated to service and stuff. I don't know about you, but a lot of people are still struggling in England, and you're a lady with a lot of power and money and whatnot. So, like, why can your society not be like free of things that people struggle with, like poverty and access to certain things? Is that really something that rich people can resolve, but they don't choose, but they choose not to? Or is that deliberately allowed to happen so that you have people to like control and oppress and work for you, inferior to you? Just what is the game here? What is the plan? But again, I am not from over there, so I don't understand their culture. But I'm just happy that Harry seems to be like he's honest with himself and he's like, fuck this. Why would I live a life of like deprivation almost? So much so many rules that they have to abide by. And it's like I was saying earlier, it's not suitable for your personality. So why try to pretend and force it, That is where people go fucking bananas. That's when they go fucking crazy. It's like a little animal. You're caging it up. When you put an animal in a cage, what does it do? It gets angry. It gets frustrated. It gets irritated. Humans are no different. Just because we're not inside a literal cage doesn't mean that mentally we cannot reach that point. And I honestly think that that's why people lose their shit. Because everybody's living in a mental cage, like so repressed and depriving themselves. And, you know, people who work excessive hours, and what is the goal? What is the point? I honestly believe the issue is that Meghan is American and Harry is from England, so it is a weird disconnect of culture. Harry seems rather to stay with his wife, in my opinion. Beautiful. And it's crazy. Isn't that crazy how, even though we're like, our civilization was like founded by English people, it's evolved, you know? Those European values are like, or well, I cannot say European necessarily, but like those British values are like different. But I love seeing how English folks seem to look at Americans as inferior, which on some things I guess I can agree, on some political matters especially, but damn. I mean, it's crazy that even though we like branched out from them, it's been like a couple centuries, so naturally there will be some changes, but like damn, it can still feel like from another planet. And I guess Megan also has like half of her culture would be naturally different, given that she's like half black or something. So you have that going on. Megan's parents didn't make it. I don't think they're still together. My phone is dying, so I need to plug it. Don't mind me. Right. So, yeah, we were pretty much designed from that society, but now it's like completely different. So with Megan also having her own cultural stuff going on, like parents who are like two different races. You know how America has that race situation especially pronounced. So that's another factor that I don't want to say it's like ruining the relationship between the two of them, but like in the eyes of a society that's obsessed with the lives of rich people and royals and whatnot, I can see how that can fuck someone up mentally. You know what I'm saying? So all I can do is be like, hey, I'm not going to be a bully to them. They haven't bullied me. Um, I also kind of understand where some people come from when they come off like they're trying to like bully them by saying, "Oh, how can you be complaining when you have such a good life?" But you don't know, you know? That's the problem. That's what I'm saying. You have forgotten how to human. You you don't know the very basics of maintaining a home and how no matter your socioeconomic status, some basics cannot be what is it, bypassed. It's like humans. Humans still need to have hearts that pump blood throughout the whole body. It doesn't matter what color you are, how tall you are, where you are born, that process needs to happen for you to function. So I look at homes as the same way. Homes ideally have like two heads of households, two parents for every child, and things like that. That's what brings stability. The baby is cute in my opinion. Now that you mention Archie, isn't it crazy though that this baby has like been the center of so much scandal over, what will his skin color be? And I'm trying to sharpen the image so that the candle doesn't look blurry, but my phone won't listen to me. Archie is like 25% black. Okay, because, right? Is that how it works? Megan is like half black. Harry is like, well, technically, maybe it doesn't work like that because Harry's like white. Megan is like half black, half white. So Archie's maybe like what, 15% black? And we're over here tripping balls about what he's going to be. Maybe he is still a quarter black, but the baby turned out to be more white. That seems to be a pattern often, but sometimes two perfectly pale people with like a dark grandparent can end up having a kid with darker complexion because it's just random like that. The allele exists, but like anything can happen. But we're all over here flipping out over this baby, and he's like more white than black. Is it because of the that stuff they used to talk about historically about the so-called one drop rule? Is that what this is about? Because damn, I am confused. I think Meghan was not used to the UK culture, much less royalty. I see their story as a fairy tale. Meghan, to my knowledge, has been a respectable female, so I give respect to Harry for choosing his wife and kid over Harry for being a father. I didn't know about Meghan Markle until this whole until her relationship with Harry, to be honest. I didn't know her as an actress or anything. But that's true. I try to imagine a life away from the States, and I always tell myself, nope, I couldn't do Mexico. Nope, I couldn't do Canada. Nope, I couldn't do England. Nope, I couldn't do any of the African countries like Egypt or South Africa. Nope, I couldn't do New Zealand. Nope, I can't do India. Nope, I can't do any of the what is it, Polynesian places. I have tried to read up on some of those cultures, and nope, I couldn't do France. Nope, I couldn't do Italy. Nope, I couldn't do Japan or China, North Korea, South Korea, all those places. North Korea is like especially out of bounds. I don't think even if I were genuinely interested, I would be able to make it. But yeah, you're in your home. Like your country is your home, whether it be a huge nation, a small nation. Those people who surround you when you're like in your formative years, that's going to determine a lot about your future. Like adopted kids. If you're adopted into a good family, like look at Jeff Bezos, he's adopted, right? And he turned out to be this person, like financially successful, but you just never know who you're going to turn into because of the people you know. So when Harry says that he wasn't aware of, like, I guess the racist aspects of his family, I believe him, because I don't think that his family is openly discussing race just so casually, constantly. But if you introduce someone who doesn't conform to your tradition, it's kind of looked at as an invasive species. Shit, it may even be treated like, this is messed up to say, but it's almost like you're a plague, and like you gotta be neutralized. So if the stuff that's alleged about the comments that the royal family was making are like true, shit, I believe it, because why not? It Anything that's foreign or alien, you're just like, to a certain extent, you're fascinated by it, but at the same time, it terrifies you. So I feel like they just wanted to somehow neutralize Megan. I'm not saying they wanted to like hurt her. It's more like, oh shit, you're trying to take one of ours. You're trying to take Harry. That's not cool, and this is why. Even though Harry would have been like a million times more miserable with like his ex or something, nobody wants to admit that. They just want to be like, oh, well, but she was British and whatever the hell. And therefore, she was more compatible and shit. You don't know. Who are you to talk about compatibility? Are you the one dating both of them? I hope not. I know you're not. I highly doubt you'll ever get that close to them. But that obsession that people have with people they don't know, celebrity worship, is insane. It's insane to me. I don't get it. Um, Megan is like 15% black. Their kid will be less than 5% black. Don't get me wrong. Megan is fine, but the baby don't even have black hair. Yeah, like to me, Archie looked more like Harry. So, diluted genes, let's call it that way. But I mean, all of us are like so freaking mixed now. To me, the original race, the base race, is like black, because that's just what I was taught. Especially if I guide myself by biblical stuff, Jesus and all these people, they had to be people of dark complexion and not the crazy pictures of pale people that we see, the depiction of Jesus and whatnot. So, whether we like it or not, we all are like black to some extent. Some of us just moved farther away from the equator, you know, for some time, and some changes happened when you stop getting your proper amount of sunlight. But whatever, man. This is shit that I just don't want to like waste my life away in, and I just want to have peace with the matter and just be with and love whoever it is that you want, as long as you're not messing with anybody or like wrecking a marriage or anything. Just in literal words, go fuck yourself. At this point, you just have to say it like that. Just go fuck yourself. Or be in company of someone, but don't try to convince people to think the way that you think. I think that's where the problem is at. All right? Like, let it go. Let people do what they want, all right? Me personally, neither Meghan nor Harry have done anything to like affect my life in any negative way. So like they can do whatever they want. Well, guys, I am going to end this right here. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me because I honestly thought I might be by myself doing this stream, but I'm glad I wasn't because I was able to learn some things. So the question is, who will get darker first out of the royal mansions in the sun, Meghan or their baby? I have no idea. I have no earthly idea. But hey, that baby is more powerful and influential than any of us will ever be. And people will forever be curious about their lives, you know? Can you imagine that? I can't imagine that. Like, everything that you do becomes a story. Like, I love journaling and filming some of my life, but damn, what you wear, who you're with, what you eat. Remember the avocado fiasco? Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna get some sleep. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.